Hello everybody, namaskar, greetings. We shall continue our study of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3. We start with a Shanti Mantra, peace chant. This is on page 48 of this book, Universal Prayers. Page 48 and 49, page 49 has the English translation. So let us chant. Om Apyayantu mamangani vakpranaschakshushrodram athabalamindriyad chasarvani sarvam brahmopanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam mama brahma nirakarot Anirakaranamastu anirakaranam me astu tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaste mayi santu te mayi santu om shanti 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 Om. May all parts of my personality, including body, mind, sense organs, sense of hearing, speech, and the prana shakti, may all those become stronger, and may all those aspects of my personality, parts of my personality, function together in harmony. This whole physical universe, perceptible through the sense organs to the mind, is nothing other than the ultimate reality described as Brahman in the Upanishads. Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam. All this is verily Brahman, Upanishad says. May I not reject this truth. It is possible to say these Upanishads were said by some people. There was no writing those days. So many ancient rishis, so many millennia before they said something. How do we know that it is true? And there is no physical evidence that we can see that Brahman is the source of everything. So it's possible to reject it. May I not reject this truth. May I accept as a challenge, as a hypothesis, as an invitation to experience the truth myself in my very life, in this very life. May I not reject this truth. As I am engaged in experiencing this truth, that everything is Brahman, may all the virtues described in the Upanishads come to me. All the virtues such as truthfulness, straightforwardness, strength, and purity, may all those virtues come to me and reside in me. Om peace. May there be peace and harmony, peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, and may there be peace everywhere in nature. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. 3 types of Shanti. Now let us continue our study of the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Last time we were studying Shloka number 8. So, Shloka number 7 we finished. Shloka number 8 we will begin with that one. In this Shloka, a very important instruction has been given. So, we will understand what is that instruction in the context of Karma Yoga. This chapter 3 is called Karma Yoga. Verse number 8. Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo hyakarmana sharira yatra pichate na prasidhyeda karmana. Here Bhagavan Sri Krishna is urging all of us to perform our required obligatory duties. How to perform, with what attitude will come in the next subsequent verses. Niyatam kuru karma. Niyata karma means duties that are obligatory, prescribed duties. What are these prescribed duties? Those are all mentioned in the 18th chapter, slokas 5 and 6. Niyata karma means everybody is obligated to do certain work. No one is an exemption. All human beings are required to do something. Different maybe, the duties may be different from person to person. Duty also varies for the same person with time. What was my duty last year or 5 years ago or yesterday is not my duty today. It's something different. I have to know what is my duty. That's our responsibility, being human beings. And then we have to perform those duties. There are 3 things which are obligatory to everybody. Those 3 things are mentioned in the 2 verses in chapter 18, verses 5 and 6. 2 verses in chapter 18, verses 5 and 6 describe those 3 duties which are common to everybody. No one is exempt from these 3 duties. What are they? Yajna, dana, tapas. Yajna means sacrifice. The whole next about 10 slokas, 8-10 slokas in this chapter deal with the topic of yajna. We will study that in some detail. Yajna means sacrifice, literal meaning. Yajna also means any work that is done as a sacrifice. So we will understand yajna in more detail. Yajna, dana. Dana means charity. How to give charity, that we will study in the later 17, 18 chapters. And then we had some discussion of charity when we were doing Taittiriya Upanishad. How to give some dana, charity to somebody. Yajna dana, sacrifice, or all work is done as sacrifice. Dana means charity in some way, shape or form. Need not be always in the form of money. We can give anything we have. We can give our time to somebody who needs our attention. We can help in other ways. And we can share our knowledge. Whatever we have, we can give, we have to give. The proper attitude. Dana. Tapaha, third requirement for everybody. All of us have to do tapas. Tapas does not mean we should all go to the forest and live in a hermitage and sit down under a tree and meditate all day. That is the, excuse me, that's one kind of tapas. Tapas here means 3 kinds of tapas that everybody has to do have been described in the 17th chapter. Chapter 17 of the Gita, verses 14, 15, 16. In 3 verses, Sri Krishna is described with 3 kinds of tapas. Austerity. Tapas means austerity. Austerity is pertaining to the body, how to keep the body in good condition so we can perform our duties and our spiritual practices without hindrance. Austerity is pertaining to the speech. When we say what we should say, how we should say, when we should say, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate, all those things have been described in the 17th chapter. And finally, austerity is pertaining to the mind, how to keep the mind calm and peaceful under all circumstances. Those things are all described. 3 kinds of tapas: austerities of the body, austerities of the mind, and austerities of speech. All these 3 have been described in 3 verses. Verses number 14, 15, 16 in chapter 17. Some time ago we studied that topic also. Yajna, dana, tapa. These 3 things are common to everybody. The details may vary. What kind of dana we do, what kind of tapas we do, that may vary from person to person, but these 3 things are very common. This is mentioned in the 18th chapter in 2 verses. Chapter 5. Verse 5 and verse 6 in chapter 18. There Sri Krishna says, no one should abandon the 3 duties. Yajna, dana, tapa, karma, natyajam karyameva tat. The yajna, dana, tapa, these 3 things should not be given up by anybody. Natyajam karyameva, they have to be done. Why? Because they purify the mind. Yajño dhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. If you do these three things, required duties, yajna, dana, tapa, in the proper way, ascertaining what is to be done, how it is to be done, then the benefit is our mind becomes pure. Purity of mind is an essential prerequisite for spiritual progress. So that's why these things are important. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. We are studying chapter 3, verse 8. Karmajayo yakarmanaha. It is always better to perform some action which is meaningful, which is required, rather than trying to abandon our duties. It will not work also. We can't stop working. That we have seen before in verse number 5. So, niyatam kuru karmatvam. Karma jayo hyakarmanaha. Karma, performing karma is far better than trying to escape our duties and become inactive. We cannot become inactive anyhow. And we have to do these three things. Yajna, dana, tapa. These are niyata karma, prescribed duties. The details may vary from person to person and vary with time. But these three things are common duties, obligatory duties to everybody. And in the second line, verse 8, Sri Krishna says, Sharira yatra pichate na prasidhyeda karmanaha. Akarma means absence of karma. Somebody who doesn't want to do any karma, just want to sit down and relax. For such a person, even the maintenance of body will not be possible. We have to do some work, if not for anything else, at least to maintain the body. We have to eat, we have to drink water, and we have to keep moving. All these things are obligatory duties to take care of the body. Sharira yatra, taking care of the body also requires duties to be performed. So, we have to ascertain what is our obligatory duties, what are our obligatory duties, and perform them with the proper attitude. We will study the attitude with which these things have to be done. So, that is sloka number 8. In the next sloka number 9, Sri Krishna has explained that all work that we do, yajna, dana, tapa, and the professional service, when you go to work in the office or clinic or bank or any place else, or government office, any place else, that work and work that we do in our homes, household chores, taking care of children, cooking, cleaning, all those things have to be done with one particular point, keeping in mind one particular point. That is, it has to be done as yajna, not grudgingly, not perfunctorily, unwillingly, but with enthusiasm, without selfishness. Yajna includes two concepts, renunciation and service. Not being attached to the karma itself or to the fruits of action. Karma phala, we have to do them with detachment. We studied that in the second chapter, verse 48. There Sri Krishna says, whenever you perform any action, perform it as a yoga. Yogastha kuru karmani, 248. Sangam tyaktva dhananjaya, giving up attachment. And second thing is, siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva, remaining equanimous in success and failure. When we do some work, we may succeed, we may partially succeed, we may fail, or usually there is a mixture of good and bad results. Mishra phala. Anishtam, ishtam, mishram cha, trividam karmana phalam, Sri Krishna says in the 18th chapter. When we perform any action, three kinds of result will accrue. Ishtam, result may be desirable, success. Anishtam, result may not be what we expected, maybe something different. Anishtam, disagreeable result may come. Third thing is mishram, it may be a mixture of good and bad. Some part of the work will succeed and something else did not work out. So it is a mixture. These three things will come. Without becoming attached to these three things and remaining equanimous in success and failure with excuse me, with diligence and devotion, we have to perform all our duties. So sloka number 9, very important verse, sloka number 9. Yajñarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. Very nice verse, important idea. Yajñarthat anyatra karmanaha ayam lokaha karma bandhanaha. If you perform any action other than as yajna, yajñarthat anyatra. If you perform action as yajna, then it is good. Then that yajna means giving up attachment to karma, karma phala, and remaining equanimous in success and failure, and offering all our work as an offering to some higher cause, just not for me myself. Shankaracharya says in the commentary, na mama phalaya ishwaraya. I am doing all this work, I am doing for the sake of the Lord, and not for my personal benefit. If benefit comes, we will accept it, but that is not my motivation. We do it as service to society, to God, to the country, to all the beings. We should perform all our actions in the largest possible context, not only in a very limited, narrow, personal context. What is in it for me? How much benefit will I get? What benefit will I get if I do this job? Not like that. Anything that you do should be kept in a broader context. If the work that I do helps my family, it is better. At least some other people are being benefited, serving them, doing everything as service. If my work benefits the company, department in which I am employed, that is better. If my work performs the society in which I live, other people, it is still better. If I perform all my work that in such a way that it benefits not only people, animals, plants and things and nature, that is even better. All of this is nothing but when we offer something to somebody, whom are we offering to? The Lord. He is present in all. Vedanta says God is present in all, everything is Brahman itself. So that is the proper attitude which we have to cultivate. When I do some work, big or small, whatever be the nature of the work, I do it as an offering. I do it as yajna. Yajna means sacrifice. Sacrifice means not for me, but for other beings. That is the best attitude with which we have to perform all our duties. Yajna arthat anyatra. If we don't do it as yajna for selfish benefit, then it is not very good. It binds. Karma bandhana. We become bound by the fruits of action, by good and bad, and that is not good for us. So the instruction here is perform all actions as yajna. The concept of yajna will come in the next few slokas. We will study yajna in some detail. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. Perform all work as sacrifice, yajna. How? Mukta sangha, free from attachment. Sangha means attachment to karma, karma phala. My work, not my work, his work. I don't want to do his work, this is my work, I want to do it myself. Or I don't want to do this work, let somebody else do it. It's ugly, distasteful, this is unpleasant work, let somebody do it. Now, not like that. With great devotion, with love, with diligence, with joy, if we perform all our actions, that becomes yajna in an unselfish way. And performing all actions in a large context, in the largest possible context. That means in the context of my family, the society, the country, the government, the department, in the interest of the whole world, all the beings. The larger the context in which we perform our duties, the better it is for us. It produces a result, namely purity of mind, and paves the way for devotion or knowledge, both. So that is verse number 9. This world is bound by works other than those done as sacrifice. O son of Kunti, free from attachment, do work as sacrifice. Free from attachment, mukta sangas samachara. To give up attachment, we have to cultivate the idea that I am offering. Offering means attach. Offering means yajna. To work as yajna, we have to cultivate the attitude that is done as an offering. Some benefit will come, some result will come, but I will not do it only for my benefit, but I will do it for the benefit of other people, animals, plants, and the whole of nature. That will, how to perform yajna in the context, largest context of the whole nature will come in the next 4 or 5 slokas. We will study that one. Very important concept. Now we go to sloka number 10. From 10 to 16, the 7 verses from 10 to 16, they describe the concept of yajna. It is only in this place in Gita that this concept of yajna has been described in such detail with very valuable instructions for all of us. From 10 to 16, those 7 verses describe cosmic yajna. Yajna at an individual level, yajna at a cosmic level, global level, including other beings, animals, plants, things, and whole of nature. Very sublime, important topic is this coming from 10, beginning from verse number 10 until verse number 16. Verse number 10. Excuse me. सह यज्ञ प्रजा सृष्ट्वा पुरोवाच प्रजापतिः अनेन प्रसविष्यध्वं एष वोत्विष्टकामधुक्. Verse number 10. सह यज्ञ प्रजा सृष्ट्वा प्रजापति पुर उवाच अनेन प्रसविष्यध्वं एष वः Ishtakama Dhuk. That means bringing forth creatures together with sacrifice. Srishti means here there are 2 views, many views. One view is God created this world. Srishti means creation. God created this world just like a potter creates a pot with clay using the instrument, the potter's wheel. So God stands apart as the creator and the product, namely the world, is different. That is one view. But Vedanta has a different view. Vedanta says there are no 2 things, only one is there. God projected this world from himself. There was no external instrument or material, no clay, no potter's wheel. From his own internal resources, he projected this universe and he occupied the whole universe, he entered into the universe. So in the Mundaka Upanishad, there are several examples of how this creation has to be viewed. There it says, Yatha Urnanabhihi Srijate Grinnate Cha. Grunanabi means a spider. If there is a spider, what does it do? It weaves a web, very geometrically symmetrical web it weaves, and then it enters the web and resides there in the web. That is another view, which is more acceptable to Vedantins. So the Lord did not create it as a product separate from Him. He projected it and He occupied it. He pervades everything in the whole of creation. So that is the view supported here. Sahayajna praja srishtva, project in this world. Praja means all the beings. 3 kinds of beings: human beings, animals, plants, and of course nature, inanimate objects. All these were projected by the Lord. Srishtva, projecting all kinds of beings. Pura means in ancient time, at the beginning. Prajapati Sahayajna Srishtva. Sahayajna means along with sacrifice. That means when creation took place, either projection or creation, whichever way we want to look at it, took place, at the same time the Lord created the concept of yajna. Yajna means mutual dependence, mutual interconnection, and mutual sacrifice. So the idea is like this. What did he mean? What does he mean when he says he created yajna also? So along with yajna, he created this world. That's what the first line says in verse number 10. Yajna means all the various things, beings in this universe, they're all interconnected and interdependent. So when you do something, it affects other people. So we have to be therefore performing all our actions as yajna. So it does not have adverse effect on other people. And our action should not have any adverse effect on other people, animals, plants and things. Our work must be beneficial to every other being in this whole universe, because we are all one spiritually. At the physical level, we are all different. I am separate, you are separate, he is separate, animals are separate, people are separate, plants are separate. Everything is infinite variety, multiplicity at the physical level. But if you go deeper into any one of these all things, we all converge and become one. This is why this analogy of a tree was given in the Kathopanishad and also in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. How we are interconnected. At the superficial level, everything is different. Everything is separate. Everything seems to be unconnected. I am separate, you are separate. You lead your life, I lead my life. That's what some people think. But if you go deeper and ask, who am I, who is he, who is she, what is this animal, what is the plant, what is the inanimate object, all pure consciousness only. One only, there is no second. Ekameva advitiyam, Chandogya Upanishad says. So at the spiritual level, you are all one. We are at the physical level, we are separate, but essentially we are one. So recognizing this unity of everything, recognizing the interdependence, interconnection of everything, we have to perform all our actions in the context of the whole creation. Not just for me or my family or my country. Whatever action I do must be done in the largest possible context. That is yajna. That idea came along with creation. When creation happened, all things are interdependent. We may not recognize it now. I am separate, don't worry, I lead my life, you don't bother me. It's not my problem, your problem. We can say like that. But that's not the case. What is my problem is everybody's problem. What is one person's problem is a problem of everybody. It affects animals, plants and whole of society. We don't think like that deeply. We think in very narrow terms. Supposing there is somebody who is doing something wrong, stealing somebody else's property or something wrong a person is doing. If you tell him, hey, please don't do it, it is not good. He says, it's my problem, why do you bother? Leave me alone, I do whatever I like to do. It's not his problem, it is everybody's problem. How? Supposing a person does a crime, some kind of mistake, and punishment will come. He will be put in jail. And who is going to support him in jail? To keep one person behind bars in this country, for 1 year it will cost 60,000-70,000 or more. So much money is required to maintain one person in jail. Look at all the infrastructure, the jail building and the staff and the judicial system, everything comes into play, comes into action when in this one, because he stole something or did something wrong. Just don't stop there with him. It affects everybody, and your taxpayers' money will have to be spent to feed him and clothe him and keep him in the jail. It's your problem. He says, my problem, leave me alone. No, it's everybody's problem. See how we are interconnected? This interconnection of all the beings, not only people, we are all connected to each other. Sometimes you don't see the connection, but it is there at a deeper level. Animals, plants, beings, inanimate objects, whole of nature is one spiritually, from the spiritual point of view. Therefore, everybody's action affects everybody else. Good action is good for everybody. If one person does something good, it affects everybody, benefits everybody. If one person does something wrong, it affects everybody adversely. Therefore, we have to perform all our actions, keeping in mind the consequences of our action on other people, animals, plants and things, and nature. and me. If I do this work, it may be all right today, it may bring me pleasure and happiness or profit, but if it has adverse effect on me in future, in myself, future, 5 years now, I may look back and say, oh, I should not have done that one. I don't want that to happen. Or we should ask, I am doing this work, how does it affect other people, animals, plants, things? Keeping in mind all this interconnection, interdependence and unity of all beings of the whole universe, we have to perform all our actions. Very sensitive to my actions, the result of my action on other people, animals, plants, and things. That is yajna. So this yajna concept came into being at the time of creation, because all the creation means other beings. All beings are interconnected. Therefore, what one person does affects other people, animals, plants. Therefore, concept of yajna came at the time of creation. So yajna, along with yajna, Prajapati prajaha srishtva. Praja means beings, 3 kinds of beings. Then what did the creator do after creating this universe with the concept of yajna inherent in the universe? Anena prasavishyadvam, may you all nourish each other and prosper. If I want to prosper, it has to be a joint effort. Hillary Clinton said it takes a village. It is very true. It takes not any village, it takes everything, everybody for me to make progress. If one person has to make progress, then everybody else will be involved in it. Sometimes very direct involvement is there visible. Sometimes it is not visible, but there is. Everybody has to contribute to it. I give an example. Supposing I am in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I want to go to, say, downtown Washington, D.C. for some work. To just make this journey from Silver Spring to Washington, D.C. downtown, how many thousands of people must work to facilitate that journey? You think about it. How can I can't walk. Even if you walk, road has to be there to walk. Somebody has to construct the road, maintain the road. If you take the metro, how many people are involved in the metro operation, metro trains? Or if you drive, how many people are involved in the driving, making my driving possible? How many people who had to work hard to produce the car manufacturing company? Thousands of people have to work. Their work is involved in my traveling from here to Washington. And how many people are required to produce the gasoline which is required for car? How many people are required to maintain the road? And all these things means every small action I do requires the participation of many, many other people, animals and plants too. This is the concept of yajna, interconnectedness and interdependence, mutual interdependence and mutual interconnection. We are all far more deeply connected with each other than we realize. We are far more, all of them, all means not only people. People are depending upon animals, animals depend on plants, plants depends upon earth and water, and the whole of nature comes into picture. So we are all connected far more deeply than we normally care to understand. Keeping that connection in mind, you have to perform all our actions in the largest possible context. That is the idea in this segment, 10 to verses 10 to 16. Anena prasavishyadvam, prosper by doing work for each other, helping each other, you prosper. I help animals, they help me. I help plants and plants help me. Without plants, can we live? Is it possible for human being to exist in this planet without any trees? No, because they provide the most essential thing to sustain life, namely oxygen. If trees are all not there, what do we breathe? Where is oxygen? They take our carbon dioxide. See how intimately you are connected. Thoughtlessly, people destroy trees and misuse the forest and kill animals thoughtless. They are all contributing to our life every moment. That is recognizing that and performing all our actions, keeping that idea in mind is yajna. Ananya prasavishyadvam, by helping each other you prosper. Yeshavostu ishtakamaduk. Ishtakamaduk means the mythical Kamadhenu cow, which gives whatever we ask. Also, this yajna work that we have to do, if we do it in the proper way, in the spirit of yajna, then that will give us whatever we like. Our life will be enormously enriched. Both worldly progress shall be possible if we do everything as yajna, as offering, and spiritual progress is also possible, because work has two benefits. One is it helps us to make progress in the world, enjoy worldly progress, wealth, money, good health, family, children. Work is required to keep all these things, acquire all these things. Abhyudaya, worldly progress and worldly happiness. Work also helps us to make spiritual progress, to move towards liberation. Without work, no tapas can be done, no spiritual practice can be done. So that is why when the Lord created or projected this universe, at the same time He projected the idea of yajna also along with it. Sa yajna praja srishtva puravacha prajapatihi. Prajapati means the creator. Now, this mutual interdependence is explained more in the next verse, verse number 11. Devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah paramamapsyatha. Verse number 11. By means of this sacrifice, anena yajnena, by means of this sacrifice, nourish the devas. Anena devan bhavayata. Bhavayata means you nourish, make offerings to the gods. Devan bhavayata. How? Yajnena. Anena means yajnena. By performing all our actions, we please the Lord, we please the gods. And they give us benefit, bless us and give us all the benefits we need. Te deva bhavayantu vaha. May the gods bestow their grace upon us. In what way? Gods will bestow grace upon us. For example, Parjanya, the god of water, pours rain. Without rain, water, how can we live? How can plants grow? The sun provides by making an offering to sun. Sun provides the most essential thing, sunlight and energy, warmth for beings to live, living beings to live, and plants to grow on this planet. If sunlight is not enough, as is the case in the faraway remote planets even in the solar system, if you go to Pluto or Neptune or someplace, sunlight is so small that no life can exist. No plant, no beings, no animals, no people. But here He is providing all, because people have to do yajna to receive the benefit from the gods. Parasparam bhavayantaha. You nourish the gods by worshipping them, doing sacrifice, yajna, etc. This Vedic yajna. And then te bhavayantu vaha. Gods will protect you by bestowing their grace, blessings upon all the beings in this world. Shreyah param avapsyatha. Parasparam. Mutually, we have to work together for mutual benefit. What I do must be beneficial to not only me, but to other people, elements, plants and things. And consequently, what other people do, animals do, plants, things, they all help us. Animals help us in many different ways. And plants help us by giving oxygen. And we are all interconnected. So we have to keep this interconnection, interdependence in mind whenever you do any action. That is the spirit of yajna. So there is this whole ecological balance. Animals enriching human life, human beings helping animals, plants enriching human life, humans supporting nourishing plants, and people nourishing nature, air, water, sun, earth. All this nature, we have to do everything to benefit them. If you do something to against them, their interest, then it will create problem for us. For example, when I do any action, I should think not only how it affects other people, animals, some plants, how does it affect the earth, how does it affect the air, how does it affect the water. It's all nature. My work has implication on effect on all those things in nature. If I start up a factory to manufacture some product, and that will bring me profit, that's the idea, to make money. Then if the factory releases harmful toxic effluents to the water stream or to air, harmful gases, then it will affect all the other beings also. See, everything has a consequence. We have to think in those larger terms. How does my work affect other people's, animals, plants, things, earth, air, water, and all those things. All interconnected. That is why this sloka number 11 says, by means of this sacrifice, nourish the devas. Let the devas nourish you. Te deva bhavayantoha. Mutually nourishing, may you win the supreme good. If we do all our actions in this way, in the spirit of yajna, in the spirit of sacrifice, keeping everybody's interest in mind, then what happens? Two things will happen. We will be happy in the worldly life, abhyudaya, and it will also help us to make spiritual progress, eventually leading to Shreyas, the highest good, liberation. So that is the concept of yajna. Now the same thing is continued in the next sloka number 12 also. Sloka number 12. Ishtan bhogan hivo deva dasyante yajna bhavita tairdatta nabrat apradayebhyo yo bhungte stena eva saha. The devas, nourished by sacrifices, will give you the enjoyments you seek. Verily, he is a thief who enjoys without giving back to the devas a share of the gifts given by them. This is true at our level also, not only devas. If I do something that benefits other people, what they do will benefit me. If I do something harmful to other people, then I will be harmed also. The effect of my karma will come back to me. Same thing about our relationship with animals, plants and nature. Mutual dependence, mutual respect, mutual service, that is the key while performing all actions as yajna. You have to change your attitude. We have to learn to think in the broader and broader terms. In everything that we do, we should think in terms of the broadest, largest possible context. The effect of my work on other people's, in my family, in the company or place of work, in society, in this country, on other people in other countries. How does it affect them? How does it affect nature? How does my work affect animals and plants? All these things have to be kept in mind when performing any of our action, and action performed in this way becomes yajna. In the Vedic context, yajna was ritualistic ceremonies. Vedic yajnas are very elaborate ceremonies. Sometimes they go for 12 days or 48 days, long duration, lot of material required, and setting up a fire, the chanting Vedic mantras, they do offerings in the fire. That is one kind of sacrifice. But in the context of karma yoga, any action I do, any action that anybody does is yajna because it affects other people, and animals, plants, or what other people do affects us. So I have to keep in mind the largest possible context. That attitude is called yajna. Yajna means unselfish work, keeping in mind the consequence of my work on everything else in nature, other people, etc. Tair daitan, they give us, gods give us gifts like rainwater, sunshine, rivers, all these things are given to us. If we enjoy all these things without sharing, tair datan, apradaya, without sharing with other people what gifts I have received in my life, such a person is really a thief. Stena means a thief. Tairdattan apradaya. The gifts that nature gives, the gifts that God gives, if we use them only for my personal benefit and not share those benefits with other people, animals, plants and things, then I am being like a thief. So sharing, dana is essential at the individual level, at the societal level, at the national level, at the international level, at the global level. At every level, this concept of sharing is very important. Sharing does not mean not only giving money. Any work that we do should be in such a way, done in such a way that it benefits, positively affects other beings, animals, plants and things. That concept is very important. It's called yajna. Performing all actions yajna. Not necessarily ritualistic Vedic yajna that were described in the Karma Kanda of the Vedas. In the Samhitas and the Brahmana portion of the Vedas, Vedic rituals are described. We are not doing those things now. So Puranic yajnas, simplified Vedic performances we do these days. Arya Samaj people do Gayatri Homa every day or every week or every month depending on convenience. Arya Samaj people setting up a fire, chanting mantras and offering ghee and dry twigs and fuel into the fire, chanting mantras for the benefit of all. That is one kind of yajna. But in the context of the Bhagavad Gita, context of Karma Yoga, every single action I do must be done as yajna. There is no other way to make spiritual progress or even to succeed in worldly endeavors. Now we go to verse number 13. If we don't share the benefits we get in life, exclusively lead a very personal life, not sharing anything, now we are being thieves. Verse number 13. Yajna shishtashanas santo muchyante sarva kilbishaihi bhunjate te tvagam papa ye pachantyatma karanat. Yajnashishtashanah means Santah means good people. Good men, good people who partake of what remains after offering sacrifice. First offering my work as yajna. Then benefit will come. And that benefit I have to share with other people. Not only for myself, but sharing it with other beings, all beings. Good men who partake of what remains after offering sacrifices are liberated from all sins. Whereas the sinners who cook for their own sake live on their sins. Here again, the context of mutual dependence, interdependence is explained further. Yajna means performing all action as sacrifice. In performing, when we perform some work, some benefit will come, and that benefit we have to share with other people. Not only exclusively using for oneself, but you have to share the benefits we get from our work with all other beings also. Otherwise, we are being very narrow-minded. It's like being a thief and they are eating your own sin. Te agam papa, te papa, those sinful people, agam bhujante, they eat their sin means it is some kind of himsa is inevitable in all action. When you do any action, some kind of himsa is, himsa means violence is involved, injury is involved to other beings, to us also, other beings also. For example, if you simply walk from this place to that place, we may be harming some small creatures whom we cannot see on the ground. If you drink a glass of water, we may be harming some small beings, their bacteria, all those things in the water. If you eat any food, we are creating himsa to the plants, vegetarian food also. So we will be free from all these sins if we share the fruits of our action with all other beings. Good men who partake of what remains after offering sacrifice are liberated from all sins, whereas the sinners who cook for their own sake live on their sins. Extremely selfish people, just about them, they care about themselves only, not even other family members. If a person has a family, husband and wife and a couple of children and parents, then that person should inquire about the well-being of everybody every day. Sri Ramakrishna used to go to see his mother. The mother used to live in Nahabat upstairs. Every day he would go to talk to her for a few minutes, ask her how are you doing, provide whatever is needed for her. So that caring, that concern, that sharing must be there. That's the essence of yajna. That's the duty of every human being, to share and not be very selfish. In the Hindu Dharma, we have the concept of the 5 yajnas, Pancha Yajna. This topic has come before, but it's worth thinking about it. Every human being, the moment one person is born as a human being, that person has already incurred 5 kinds of debts. Yeah, borrowed already 5 things. How? These 5 debts are called Pancharana. First Rana is to God. We are deeply indebted to God. Being born as a human being myself, I am deeply indebted to God because He gave me human birth, human body, human qualities. Without it, no spiritual progress is possible. Or if you are born as an animal or a plant or something else, then no spiritual progress is possible. We just remain animals. Animals remain as animals. They don't make any progress. It's only human beings that can make progress and obtain liberation. So receiving a human birth itself is the greatest gift we have already received. You are born as a human being, so we already received the greatest gift we can receive. Therefore, we should be indebted to God. First indebtedness is to God for giving us human birth and all the facilities. Not only human birth, but all other facilities we have been given by the grace of God. So how do we show our indebtedness? How do we show our gratitude to God? By worshipping God in many different kinds of worship, any kind of worship. Karma Yoga is also worship of God. First, indebtedness to God. Secondly, you are indebted to the rishis, the ancient sages who have given this wealth of this knowledge. They dedicated their whole life to acquire this knowledge, and then they freely shared their knowledge, their experiences, their insight with all of posterity. They did not expect anything in return. Whatever knowledge they gained by intense austerities, tapas, they shared it with everybody. So we have this knowledge communicated to us. Generation after generation we have received this knowledge. All knowledge, even in scientific field also, social science also, a lot of people do research and work very hard, and the result of the research benefits everybody else. That indebtedness to to the rishis, sages. Second Rana, Rishi Rana, Deva Rana, Rishi Rana. Third indebtedness is to other beings, Nara Yajna. How to satisfy, how to fulfill that indebtedness. Why you are indebted to other people? I may say, I have my own income, my own job, my own family, my own house. I don't care about other people. I lead my own life. We cannot say that, because every small action that I do in my life requires the cooperation of large number of people. If I want to drink a sip of water, simple action, how many people must have worked hard to make this action possible? Water comes in a tap. When you turn on the tap faucet, water will come. But for water to come, how many people must have put in their effort, knowledge and skill to establish that infrastructure? We cannot go to the river and get water and purify it. We have to depend on the tap water. How many thousands of people have worked very hard to make this light with which I am using to speak? How many utility company people have to work very hard? And the cloth I am wearing, how many thousands of people must have worked very hard, beginning from the farmer who works in the cotton field, the farm workers, then the processing of the cotton, make it into yarn, weave it into cloth and make it available to me here. How many people are involved in it? So every action in my life requires the cooperation of numerous other people, in not only in this country, in every other country, other countries also. The people who work to make our life possible, we are working hard in other countries. Research is happening in other countries, utilities in other countries, and all kinds of things we import and we export. Countries also are mutually dependent. No country can live in isolation. No person can live in isolation. No country can live in isolation. We have to give and take. So that is Narayana. I should fulfill my obligation, pay back the loan, the debt that I received from the labor of thousands of other people. How do I cannot personally go and contact everybody who made this cloth. Thank you for making this cloth. We can't do that one. We have to do our own sacrifice. So our work has to be done as offering to the whole of society. Narayana. Devarana, indebtedness to God. Rishirana, indebtedness to the sages for giving us a knowledge, accumulated wisdom, indebtedness to all other people. Everybody is ever depending upon everybody else. And then fourth one is Bhutarana, animals and plants. Deva, Rishi, parents I forgot. And Pitrurana means our indebtedness to our parents. No matter how much service we do, we can never fully repay everything for everything we have received from our parents. In old age, we have to support them with love, serve them, take care of them. That's our duty. We are indebted to them. They brought us into the world, gave us the education, health care, good upbringing, made us into people that we are today. How much indebtedness we have to our parents, it can never be repaid. Especially mother's contribution to a child. How much, when we are infants, they took care of us round the clock. We could not do anything. What does a baby can do? It has to depend upon its parents for everything. So, indebtedness to parents. Devarana, indebtedness to God, indebtedness to rishis, sages, indebtedness to parents, Pitrurana, then other people that we saw. Fifth one is our indebtedness to animals and plants, Bhutarana. Without the simultaneous cooperative coexistence of animals and plants, human beings cannot live on this planet. It's impossible. So we are all connected. They are all contributing to our life. The food that we grow, the food that we eat, how many people must have worked hard to make that action possible? And the plants are sacrificing themselves to provide food, serve as food for us. Animals are doing their own. Even a small being like an earthworm, for example, earthworm is a good example. How does it help me? You can ask. Earthworm nourishes the soil, makes the soil very rich and fertile, so plants can grow properly in the fields. Without complaining, without advertising, earthworm is millions of earthworms are enriching the soil every moment. We don't recognize that one. So the recognition of this indebtedness to the five entities, that's very important part of yajna, pancha yajna. Now, that's sloka number 30. In sloka 14 and 15, very important key verses, the concept of cosmic yajna has been described. The whole universe is one entity where infinite number of beings are all connected in infinite ways to other beings. It's a very highly complex, interconnected web network of existence. We are all connected to everybody else. We may not recognize the connection, we may not recognize it. Sometimes the connection is very strong, mutual. So same people, two people living in the same family, parents and children are strongly connected to each other. The connection is visible and very strong. Somebody living in some other country doing something, is also connected to me, but the connection is not so immediate, it's not so strong, it's not visible, but connection is there. So in the 14th and 15th verses, the concept of cosmic yajna has been described. Very, very interesting, important concept. We'll study that next time. Some of you may remember that about 3-4 years ago, Swami Nishpapananda came from St. Louis. He gave his Sunday talk was Cosmic Yajna. How everything is in this world is interconnected and interdependent. That was the very nice concept. That is explained in 14-15. Next time when we meet, we will study those 2 slokas. Now I shall say the closing prayer. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sakhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy, may all be peaceful, may all realize what is noble and auspicious, may no one be subject to misery. Om, peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, may there be peace everywhere in nature. Hari Om Tat Sat, Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you and have a nice day, great day. Thank you.